So yesterday we went and we decided whether each was law of sines or law of cosines, and we set up the first equation. Now to solve these, we're going to need to set up two equations. But first, I'll just start with number one. We need to solve this equation, which will tell me big B, which will then tell me the angle right there. And then the second step, I would always use law of sines because I think it's easier. Then you'll use law of sines to find here, and then you can use the fact that three angles add up to 180. Now, I can't fit all the room or all the work in this box, so I'm going to write the equation and the answer, but I'm going to do the work on a separate sheet of paper. I did see, if you want to keep all this in your packet, that there is a blank right there you could use on the back of your target if you wanted to keep it all in your packet. Okay? Or you could just pull out another sheet of paper. Your choice. Your nose. So first, we're going to concentrate on number one. That means I'm going to copy down this equation we set up yesterday. So the sine of 72 over 21 equals sine of B over 17. All I did was copy this equation. We did that yesterday. Now let's solve. Solving, this is a proportion. I would just cross multiply. You get 17 times the sine of 72 equals 21 times the sine of B. Now to get sine of B by itself, it has a 21 in front of it, so divide both sides by 21. Again, all I did was divide both sides by 21. Side. Do you want to type everything in all at once, or do you want to do two calculations in the calculator? You want to do all at once? You'll be more accurate if you do it that way. Actually, probably the easier way would be at this point to type in what you have, 17 sine 72 divided by 21. And that's the sine equals that, right? So 0.769. I would keep it at 4 decimal places till the very end. And then to undo sine, we're going to do the inverse. So then B equals the sine inverse of 0.7699. So then what I would do is we have a sine inverse, and then instead of typing in 0.7699, you could hit second answer just previously. That would be the most accurate. And so I get 50.35 degrees. So I had my proportion, I cross multiplied, I got sine of B by itself. Once I had sine of B by itself, I did the inverse. Now technically, if you wanted to at this step, you could type it all in as sine inverse, and then type in 17 sine 72 divided by 21, and you'll still get the 50th degrees. You see that? You could type it in all at once if you wanted to. Or I think most kids like to do one piece and then the other piece. So it's not too much. Up to you. But all we found is angle B is around 50.35 degrees. That's all we found. So I would go over here and I would label this because it says solve. That means find all missing sides, all missing angles. We know that this is 50.35 degrees. And let's just say rounding 2 decimal places. But if you accurate results, you would round to like more decimal places, okay? Questions so far? Now, if we know this is 2, and we know this is 50.35, and we know that 3 angles add up to 180, I could do 180 minus 72 minus 50.35, and that'll tell me that angle. So 180 minus 72 minus 50.35, and I get 57.65 right here. So I know all 3 angles, but I do not know all 3 sides. It says 57.65 degrees. Should have made my triangle a little bigger. So I'm going to set up another ratio of sine. So here I got B, I'm just going to write down what we got. B equals 50.35. My next ratio, you have some choices here. Do you want to use 72 with the 21? Or you could use the 50.35 with the 17. Your choice. I would use the one you did not round. So I would still use 72. So I would say sine of 72 over 21. So this over that. And then because we're trying to find C, you're going to set it up as sine of 57.65 all over little c. Does that make sense? And that'll find the side opposite angle C. Now I'm going to copy this on another piece of paper because we don't have room. And I seriously doubt I have time to go through and solve all your problems today. But we'll just kind of watch the clock and see where we end up. Okay. Now I need to solve that proportion. Right? And then that'll tell me side C, and then I'll be done. Cross multiply. I get C times the sine of 72 equals, now I see some kids put the 21 on the outside and then they forget to put the parenthesis, which means they accidentally put that inside, which changes the problem. I would always put it out front if I were you. Plus it looks nicer, standard form. Notice, we're just trying to get C by itself. This problem is actually easier. So to undo sine of 72, I am going to divide both sides by sine of 72. So on this one, I do not have, you only use inverse when you're trying to find an angle. So this one, I could just type all that in my calculator all at once. And there is no inverse, just sine. Type it in. (21) sine 57.65 divided by sine 72. Now, before I hit enter, we rounded 57.65, so the answer we're about to get is going to be off a little bit more. So if you were trying to actually do something real live, you would not have rounded the problem before, okay? And I get 18.65. So C, 18.65. Going back to my paper, again, I didn't have room for all this. C equals 18.65, which means I could label this 18.65. Now, if you wanted to go through and label big A is 72, angle B is 50-ish, angle C is 57-ish, and then little c is 18.65, little a is 21, little b is 17. You could, or if I just see a triangle, I'm happy. Okay, I see a triangle that's all filled in, I'm happy. Okay, if this were a test. Questions? This triangle just isn't right. It causes all kinds of work. All right, let's go to number 2. And again, I am watching the clock. We can't do every single problem. So problem number 2, I have this, and it's cosine of C. C is an angle. So after I solve this, I will find angle C. Does that make sense? And then I need to find angle B and angle A. So let me copy down this equation. So I copy down the equation, hopefully correctly. Now, law of cosines is long, but it's really not hard. 4 squared is 16. I would say the most mistake I've seen over the years is kids type calculator right here. So what kids do is they type this whole thing in their calculator and they see what that is. And you cannot do that because you can't subtract before you multiply. So you have to multiply all of this before you subtract. You can't just take what piece you want. So that is illegal. That does cause the wrong answer. But what you can do is say 2 squared is 4, 5 squared is 25, 4 plus 25 is 29. And you can, again, you cannot take off 2 from 29. You just can't. But you can go 2 times 2 is 4, times 5 is 20. Use a calculator if you can't do it. And again, I'll say it one more time. You cannot do 29 minus 20 and get 9. That will cause the wrong answer. Okay, my goal is to get cosine of C by itself. I'm going to subtract 29 from both sides first. $13 equals negative 20 times cosine of C, is what I have now. Sorry, my C looks like a 0. And then I have negative 20 times cosine of C, so let's divide both sides by negative 20. Correct? And then we're trying to find an angle. So at the very end, this is when you do the inverse to get the C by itself. So big C would be the inverse of negative 13 divided by negative 20. And you may have went ahead and got rid of the negative signs because negative divided by negative is positive. I just left it there. So I'm going to type this in, and that'll tell me my angle C. Cosine inverse, 13, or you could type negative 13 divided by negative 20. I guess that's what I could do. And I would close off your parentheses just to make sure. 49.46. degrees. So now I know angle C is 49.46 degrees. So angle C is 49.46 degrees. Sorry. Which means I could go here and put 49.46 degrees. Now you could go through and use law of cosines again. I think you should just use law of sines. But now I'm going to do law of sines with 49.46 over 4. And then your choice, do you want to find angle B or angle A first? Your choice, doesn't matter. Christina, which one do you want to find, angle B or angle A? B. So the ratio for that, you use what you know, sine of 49.46 over 4 equals, now if you wanted to find angle B first, maybe you choose angle A, you'll get the same results, equals sine of B over 5. Because we're trying to find an angle at the very end, we will be doing inverses. Now me personally, I'd probably just multiply both sides by 5, which gets sine of B by itself, and then do the inverse. But because I've been showing you cross multiplication, I'll show you that way. So let me copy down what we had. Again, cross multiply. So we got 5 times sine 49.46 equals 4 times sine of B like I said, me personally, because then you have to divide by 4, I would have just kept this the same and just multiply both sides by 5 is how I do it. So anyway, you have to divide by 4 now. Kind of adds an extra step. And then find angle B, we'll do the inverse. Now, no one's asked, but the reason why I'm not typing this in my calculator and then writing down decimals is because the more you write decimals down at the beginning, the more your answer's off at the end. I'll leave it up to you if you want to type this in and then do the inverse, or if you just want to type in the whole thing at once. Christina, which one do you want? All at once? Okay. Yeah. So sine inverse. And then I have 5, 49.46. Now, make sure you close off those parentheses. That's important. And then divide it by 4. And then close off the sine inverse parenthesis. Right? So it should spit out angle B, which is 71.79 degrees. So now I know angle B is 71.79 degrees. So I could put 71, and instead of trying to draw it in there, I'm just going to do this. My handwriting is too large to fit there. I think that looks better anyway. Now the other angle is easy. All three angles add up to 180. If you want to use law of sines a third time, or I guess it'd be a second time, you can, but I would use the interior angle theorem. It says three angles in a triangle add up to 180. 180 minus 71.79 minus 49.46. 5. The triangle is now solved. Watching my timer, we have now spent 21 minutes on this, which means 10 minutes per problem. Crazy. Jada, which one would you like to see worked out? You care? Do you care which one I pick? Christina? There are other people in my class. Do you care which one? Scarlett? No? A hard one? Well, I think I've kind of shown you one like this already, haven't I? I mean, I can model what I do real fast, at least on a couple. What I do is I could look at that and do the cross multiplication in my head, which I don't know if I encourage that because I'm more likely to make mistakes. But if you take 4 times sine of 102, and then this is going to be C times sine of 21. So I know in my head I'm going to be dividing by sine of 21. That's what I do. I'm like, oh, C is 38.21 degrees. Oh, this is where the big C and little c get confusing. It's not